Hi, welcome to my channel. Today we are doing the NCW by Emmeline bags. Not a lot of changes. I just opted out of doing that accent piece. And then for these accordion sides, I did not stitch it down. I only did rivets. Rivets are domestic friendly. My machine doesn't even like the humps. If you have an industrial, it might work. I tried it with my domestic machine the first time I made this wallet, and it did not go very well. So to avoid a headache, just go ahead and rivet. Rivets are nice. They're quick, they're easy, and it's done. So like, subscribe, dislike it. I don't know why you would, but let me know if there's any changes to the way I do the videos or anything like that. Let me know what you would like to see. If I can make it happen, I will. All right, so see you making this wallet. Bye. All right, let's get started making this wallet. First things first, I'm going to do the zipper pocket. The reason why there's the inside zipper pocket is because there's these zipper tabs. They're tiny pieces. I tend to lose them, so I'm going to get them out of the way. I did make this zipper slightly smaller than what the pattern says, only because it asks for zipper tabs and then it wants you to make the zipper the same size as the pocket. So, so I made it a little shorter so the zipper tabs actually are seen and functional. So we're going to take one piece right side up and the other one piece right side down. So you'll have the right side up on the wrong side of the zipper, right side down on the right side of the zipper. I know, kind of sounds confusing, but basically making a sandwich with your zipper tabs. So I'm just going to use the smaller stitch length of about 3.5, 4. Well, really 3.5. You could do 3.5. It's up to you. I do have my regular foot on today. I have a little bit of vinyl that I'm working with, but it should be fine. So I'm going to do both zipper tabs first, and then I'll top stitch them, just so I'm not going click, 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 click. I mean, it kind of gets annoying. Back and forth. It's fine. It's all good in the hood. All right. So now you'll pull the both pieces wrong sides together and then you'll top stitch. I don't think, well, of course, I just started. So I didn't talk about interfacing, but with interfacing, I use SF101 and 809. So SF101 is the woven. You can get all of this at Joann's. So I use the SF101. This is the exterior piece. The lining main piece, I use SF101. And then I also use 809 to kind of give the wallet a little bit more stiffness. This is a Decoville heavy, so Pellon 526. And this is just for where the snap piece is going to go. And I did, for the flap, this is SF101 and Decoville heavy. And I used some 809 on the outer zipper pocket pieces, not the interior zipper pockets. And I will talk about the card slots when I get to the card slots, because I did that a little differently. I almost forgot about the magnets. So let me get the magnet pieces. And I almost forgot duct tape. So let's get that. All right, now let's finish this. Sorry, kind of just went all over the place just real quick, but it's good. So now we'll go ahead and top stitch. Like I said before, I use a specific part on my foot as my guide for my top stitching. And I've had people ask all the time, how do you get straight lines? Well, not all my lines are straight, but my best advice is to pick a specific spot on your foot to use for your top stitching guide for everything. And then you should be fine. So we'll go ahead and top stitch. And I'll top stitch this side. This video, you guys know I usually like speed through parts. Like the sunshine wristlet, I will probably not speed through anything just because it is a quick project. It shouldn't take super long. So, you know, this is a good one to just show from start to finish without rushing through anything. So we'll take our right side. Just remember, if you are using a directional fabric, make sure you're putting your zipper on the top of your pattern. So here you see it is directional. So I'm going to put my zipper right sides together at the very top here. If I put it here, it's going to be upside down when I finish the pocket. So we'll put it here and keep on going. Now, you know, I've been doing this for a while. You can go ahead and clip it if you want. I'm not. It's going to be fine. So I'm going to baste my zipper in place. And you're going to see me fidget with my machine a little bit because my, I have a needle thread bar hook that's on my machine and it broke off. One day I'm sewing it just snapped off. So I had to get a new one. So I had to kind of guide my thread, make sure it stays in where it's supposed to go. And sometimes my thread shreds because of it. So now we'll go ahead and put our lining piece on so it'll be right sides together. And I'll go with that constructive stitch length. You can clip here. I'm just laying it together, lining the edges up. It should be fine. Like I said, it's all good in the hood. Use your correct zipper seam allowance. I'm moving the zipper pull out of the way. And I'm not pushing it or anything. I'm just using my hand as a guide. You don't want to push or pull at all. We'll flip wrong sides together and top stitch. Now, if you are using a domestic machine, I'll let you know now. This pocket piece can get a little thick once you start to go to putting the whole pocket together. So if you want to avoid some thickness, take the 809 your pocket pieces, and that should help a little bit with bulkiness because the 809 does make it a little thick. Make sure, as always, pull your exterior and your lining away from your zipper as best as you can. You don't want any fabric catching in those teeth when you're using your zipper. The fabric lining is super cute because it's all glittery and fancy and pretty. Alright, so now I'll go ahead and do right sides together, making sure that your zipper is going to be at the top of that directional fabric. And I'm just lining those pieces up together. Like I said, I mean, I guess because I'm doing a video, I should do it the correct way, but like, do I do it that way all the time? No. Just line your panel pieces up, and we will base it in place. I guess I'm like kind of a rule breaker, so I'm like, man, I don't need to clip. It's such a small little piece. Why clip it? All right. Snip my thread. And now we'll get our lining piece. It'll be right sides together, so just make sure, you know, your lining pieces are facing right sides. And now we will go ahead and put this thing together. I'm still getting used to these snips, so I have a magnet on my machine to hold the snips there. This is the smaller stitch length. We are constructing the pocket. I'm gonna move the zipper out of the way a little bit. Well, whatever. And it back. And then wrong sides together. And I like to, when I'm doing zipper pockets like this, I like to make sure the zipper is closed, just because you're making sure that you're pulling it correctly. If it's open, you could be pulling it all weird and make your zipper wavy. So I make sure I close it all the way before I do this last top stitch here. Back to our top stitch length. Those out of the way. And I didn't say it, but back stitch before, at the beginning and the end, your start and stop, whatever you want to call it. Now I'm going to open my zipper back up, and I'm going to put right sides together. And then you want to try to have your lining pieces lined up a little bit. Here I am going to clip because I don't want anything to shift. It can. All right, so now you're just going to use whatever the seam allowance is here, and make sure you're at that constructive stitch length. Back stitch. Went a little too far there. After a little while, you'll be able to see like your seam allowance, where you need to stop before you pivot. It's kind of cool when you can do that. Then you just kind of move along with your project. No issues. All right. We'll clip those threads, and I will get some scissors to trim my seam allowance. My corner is not going to be that great on this part just because I went a little too far, but it's okay. It is still all good in the hood. All right, trim that seam allowance to almost all the time when you're trimming a seam allowance is almost about 1/4 of an inch away from your stitches. Just make sure you don't cut those stitches. And now we'll go ahead and turn our pocket out. Should have. Turn my iron on. And yeah, I know you're like, wait a minute. Like the lining doesn't go all the way to the bottom. What's going on? Well, I forget the name of what it's called, but the way that we do the zipper pocket, it's not going to be a problem. You're not going to see any of those raw edges or anything. And I'll show you why. Pop those zipper tabs out. Make sure you push the corners out as best you can. If you need to, you can always get like the end of a paintbrush or a chopstick. I had chopstick up here and I broke it. Apparently I'm pretty aggressive, but anyways. So to push those corners out. And now we have our zipper pocket for the interior of the wallet. I'm going to press it a little bit just because when you use 809, it can get a little wrinkly. So just be mindful of that. All right, so press it just a little bit, get those wrinkles out. Make sure it's nice and flat. And now we will top stitch around. I will say this, right here where the zipper tab is, even on my machine, it is maybe a high performance, but it still does not like that. So, you know, take it slow, take your time. If you're using a domestic machine, definitely take out the 809, take out one side of the zipper tab, and it should work out a little bit better for you. Just do the top part of the zipper tab. But that's the advice I got for you. I'm going to back stitch. Oops. It doesn't like that hump. Now what you could do also is just turn it around to get that top stitch up as far as you can. And then turn it back around. Make sure it's not shredding my thread. I don't know, you might be able to hear the girls in the background tonight. I don't know. If you do, sorry about that. So we'll just top stitch all the way around. And I do like a little top stitch in the corner. You hear that? It gets a little loud right when I get to the lining part, but it's okay. Back stitch. All right, and that is done. And now what you can do is you'll fold it in half and you can go ahead and stick your double-sided tape to it now. If you don't want to use double-sided tape, that's fine. It's up to you. I mean, I can't make it do anything. It's more helpful, but I'm going to clip the sides together. And the double-sided tape that I use is from Wawac. I think it's wawac.com. I think that's how you pronounce it. But it's actually really good. And right now, it is on sale with needles and thread and a bunch of other stuff. So check it out. I will drop a link below on so you can just click on it and get whatever you need. So now we'll go ahead and move to the card slots. So the card slots, I picked up a little tip from another wallet that I was doing. So I did use Sf101, but what I did was it tells you to mark your lines for the folds. In the smaller marks, I took 809 and put them within the smaller marks right there. And first of all, one, that gives you the perfect fold. Two, it also gives you a little sturdiness for when you're sticking your cards in there, because the SF can still be a little flimsy. So this gives you a little stiffness. You could use 809. You could also use Decoville Light, which is amazing stuff. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to top stitch all my card slot folds. Just the folds. Now you could turn it around and continue to stitch, but like I said, I have a specific spot on my foot that I use as my guide, and this is like 1/8 of an inch away from the edge. So see what I mean? Lines aren't always straight. It's fine. So now I'll flip it back, and I'm just going to top stitch right here on these sides just to make sure everything's put together. One way that you could possibly lessen the bulk here is not using SF here and only using 809 right here. And the way I did do it, I forgot to tell you, is I cut it to where the 809 is going to be out of the seam allowance. So that lessens bulk as well. Come on. All right. So I'll go ahead and do the other one the same way. Top stitch. stitch the sides. Oh gosh. Sorry if you heard that. I might be hungry. A little hungry. So now, making sure that your card slots are facing upwards, we're going to take our two pieces, right sides together. And you can clip here, you can pin here. It's up to you. I'm not doing all that. And use your seam allowance. And I did do constructive stitch length, so the smaller stitch length. And now you can go ahead and press. Y'all know I usually like finger press, but for here I am going to press because I don't want to have any of that bulk in the middle when we go put our zipper pocket there. So I'm going to press these pieces apart. All right. So now we can find our center, because we know exactly the size that it's supposed to be. I can just use my ruler and mark my center real quick. Here we go. Get a pen. I use a pencil for a lot. And I'm just going to use a pencil to mark my center. Sorry, it's off camera, just because I don't want to show any measurements. You get the measurements when you buy the pattern. All right, so the top stitch length, since these are stitches that are going to be seen. And then right where the card slots meet, I'm doing a little bit of back stitching, just give it extra security. Got that tip from another YouTuber. Because you are putting your cards in and out, you give it more stability to not tear. Now we're going to take our back card panel. I did interface this with 809, and we're going to put it right sides together here. And then we're only going to stitch the top. So the sides you can still keep open, because that's we're going to flip it out. And I am using the smaller constructive stitch length. So now we will, let's clip this. We're going to flip the card slots out through the side pieces that we did not sew down. Flatten it out a little bit. I am going to press it. I don't normally press this much, but because the way this wall is made, I just want to make sure everything looks really, really nice. I'm going to press it just a little bit. If you are using 809, I will say the initial fusing of the interface, you would definitely want to have a heat press. From experience, using iron is not that great. It's actually quite terrible. So now we're going to top stitch all the way around. Probably should have checked my bobbin. So now we have our zipper pocket, our card slots, and the zipper is going to sit right in the middle. We'll put that to the side and deal with all of our exterior pieces. So with the flap, I'm using vinyl for the exterior part and the cotton for the lining piece. I SF101 and Decoville Heavy. Make sure, even with my machine, to keep that Decoville Heavy out of your seam allowance. I don't know if you're using an industrial, but I don't know if it'll sew over that, but you're going to have to go back over after you sew this together and top stitch. So you want to try to keep as much out of the way as possible. And I marked I was finding my center, and we're going to take one of our washers and we're going to find our center here. Haha, I just realized I interfaced the Decoville Heavy on this part wrong. So we're going to have to do that. But that's fine. Sometimes that happens. It's okay. So we're going to take our washer, put the dot, the center on the dot that we made. And then we'll take our X-Acto knife and just poke right where we made those lines. And for the flap, we'll be using the male end, so the side with the hump on it. And normally you put some Decoville Heavy on these, but because I've already interfaced the whole flap with Decoville Heavy, there's no need to put more Decoville Heavy. And pushing out. And take one of the washers. Oh, I already did that. And a little bit of duct tape. Duct tape just helps to keep the prongs from wearing on the opposite end of the fabric. Or your lining piece or your exterior piece, whatever you're putting this to. And I have Decoville scraps, and I always keep the Decoville Heavy scraps for this reason, because you always use Decoville Heavy is what I always use for my interface pieces and for the prongs. And I'm gonna go ahead and mark my spot. Sorry guys, I guess this is real life. Where did I put the pencil? Alright, pen over. I'm just marking where my decollete piece needs to go. And I will cut my piece of decollete out. And I'll interface it real quick. I don't think you technically have to interface it. You can just kind of poke the holes and let it and pull the prongs through, but I just like to interface it just for it to make sure it's stable, I guess is the best way. And if you're using directional fabric, once again, make sure your prong piece is going to be on the bottom of the direction. So this is the direction. This will be the top where the flap is. So make sure you put your stabilizer down here where your magnet's going to be. So let's get a washer. And I already kind of know the center, but we'll just mark a little bit of a center here. Mark our prongs. If you want, you can measure from the bottom and all that. I'm not doing all that. It's fine. So we'll take our female side. Go ahead and put it through. And get our washer. Pick it up. And press the prongs to the outside. Okay, so now we'll take our flaps, right sides together. If you want, you can clip pin. I am here just because I don't want any sliding and slipping of the fabric on this vinyl. Just using hair clips. Hair clips are good for if you're using vinyl, so they don't leave prong marks from the wonder clips. Use our required seam allowance, constructive length. And just go slow because these curves can get a little questionable. And bobbin. Check your bobbin. But I was saying the curves can get a bit like rough. Honestly, I probably could have cut a little bit more of my decollete here on the curved part. But I think it still should work out fine. And you're not going to sew the top because we're going to flip it right sides out. We'll trim the seam allowance, making sure we do not trim our stitches. And we'll just flip it out right sides together. Excuse me. Be sure to push those corners out as best as you can. And now we have our flap. So I'm going to just start to top stitch, starting from the top. The top piece you can clip if you like. Here I could have switched to my Teflon foot, but it's just this one small piece. I believe the top stitching should look perfectly fine. Looks good. So now, next thing we'll do is take our exterior main piece and our flap. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and fold the magnets to make the magnets sit together. Make sure you have your right sides together. And what this is going to help me do is line this up. It gives you measurements, but you know, sometimes things slip, move, whatever it is. So this is probably the best way to make sure that your top flap does line up correctly so it closes right. And we'll just take a little bit of clips and then we're going to baste the top flap on. Now, still gotta remember my steps. Now we'll undo the magnet. We're going to take our lining piece. So now here with the lining piece, you see there's like this slit and you're like, oh no, why did she do that? Well, this is where we're going to turn this flat piece out. This is going to be covered up by your card slot in your zipper pocket, so you're not going to see this at all. I do have that deckable heavy piece there, but it's going to be behind the card slot, so it's no big deal. Now we'll just lay these right sides together. Now I'll take a couple little clippy clips, as my little one calls it. Clippy clips. She loves to come and hand me clips. And now we're going to sew these two pieces together. And this is a little bit different from what the pattern tells you to do, because the pattern wants you to do not put in a hole in there. You're leaving a small little gap and then you'll close it. But this way you don't have to do it that way. And no stitches will be seen besides your top stitch. Normally, when I'm sewing, I'm watching something or listening to music. So it has to be quiet in here. So I would love to know what you all like to do when you're sewing. Do you watch TV, listen to music? Do you like it quiet? All right, so on my seam allowance, I'm starting just outside of this flap because that I don't want to have that extra back stitch on there. It's not really a big deal, but constructive stitch length, back stitch, and let's go all the way around. Be careful on that level change. I know some machines don't like it, you know, so just go slow so you don't get any skip stitches. And back stitch. I am going to do a little bit of a trim, not trimming where the flap is. I will not trim. So like right where the flap starts and ends is where I will stop my seam allowance. Trimming at my seam allowance. Be careful not to trim your stitches. And now we'll just go ahead and take our flap and pull it through so we can flip the wrong sides together here. Push those curves out as best as you can. And 809 does tend to wrinkle, so I'm going to press this a little bit real quick. Flatten this out, and then we can top stitch our oval. So now we can top stitch. I don't think it really matters where you're going to start, but I'm going to start and stop. Same way I start and stop for putting the pieces together. Top stitch length, and we'll go all the way around. Once again, being careful of those level changes. Alright, so now we will be getting this wallet put together and almost basically done. And you see your little slit here. Well, your card slots are going right on top of that. You're perfectly fine. Get these out of the way. So we'll line the card slots up basically with the edges of your flap. And now we're just going to fold these side panels in, get some clips. And you want to kind of pull it a little tight, just so you know you're in there like swimwear. I don't know. We'll pull the other side in. Clip. Clip. And then, so basically your wallet is almost put together, so you can fold it and you can see how cute, right? Super cute. All right, I think it's all good. Pull this a little bit tighter, just a little bit. And now you are going to use your top stitch link to stitch this down. I'm going to try to start where my top stitch is for my flap to kind of make it more of a continuous top stitch. You'll want to go slow at the very top because it's gotten really thick here. So take your time. Clip it. Making sure my stitches look pretty good on that side. And then pull it open, make sure you caught everything. And eventually, I have some cards somewhere. Not sure what I did with those cards. But I had some cards around to slide them in to make sure it fits. All right, here we go. Want to make sure everything works. All right. And that side is good. If you didn't catch anything, you could do another stitch 1/8 of an inch from this. It will, your cards still will fit. I've done it before, so you'll be fine. Now you can start at the top on this side, but like I said before, I have a specific spot on my foot I use as my guide. Okay, double check everything's caught. And now we'll take our zipper pocket. Press to get that double-sided tape on there. There we go. And put it right in the middle, on that middle seam. And it fits perfectly between your flaps. I'm going to turn it this way. And now I'm just going to press down just to make sure the zipper pocket is held in place. I am going to, not sure what I did with my 1-inch ruler. That is fine. I'm just going to mark a line from the center. And you can always find your center with your seam there. And I'm doing it about 1/4 inch. Let me make sure. You want it to be the same on each side, because your rectangle here, they are going to be able to see your rectangle. So now we're going to sew our zipper pocket down. And you're going to sew that rectangle that you marked with the same top stitch length. And be careful of your magnet that it doesn't catch on the machine. I've had that happen before, where it catches and then it pulls, and now I have a stitch going kind of wonky. If you know your machine does not like double-sided tape, make sure the double-sided tape is not going to be anywhere where you're going to sew. Did it line up? There we go. And this is where I say you gotta take your time here, because these stitches will be seen on the back side of your wallet, the bottom of the wallet. So just make sure you're careful. All right, last step is to get our side pieces connected to our zipper pocket. So I'm just going to estimate where I'm going to do this. I'm going to do clip it right now. Get big clips. And then I just like to see, okay, well, does this look even? No, it does not. And I'm just going to shift it to where the panel pieces, your zipper pocket and your panel pieces all look pretty even, symmetrical. I like things symmetrical. think that looks good. Close it up. Oh yeah. Cute. All right, so the pattern does say to sew this down, but I find it kind of difficult and awkward, and the pieces get pretty thick in places. It's not domestic friendly doing it that way. So I'm going to rivet the side panels. I just have this leather hole punch here. You can get this at Michael's, at, I don't know, they probably have it at Joann's too, Hobby Lobby. And I'm going to just pull these pieces back, and I'm going to do 2 rivets here. The color of the rivets, like, it doesn't really matter. I mean, I wouldn't use like rose gold or anything, but this punches the holes for you. I'm going to go ahead and use some gunmetal rivets. And I'm going to rivet. And I do 2 rivets on each little wedge piece. The rivets here I got from Tandy Leather, but you can get them from all kinds of places. Tandy Leather is local here for me in a lot of places, but that way I don't have to wait for them to come via online shopping. So now I'm just going to use my rivet press that I got from Can Snaps. I'm using medium-sized rivets just in case you want to know. I believe they are 9mm. But Tandy Leather doesn't actually have numbers on there. But I do think they match up to a 9mm. Rivet. Okay. And now our wallet is done, and now you can see here, you will not see that raw edge from that interior, the lining for the zipper pocket, because we basically sewed it shut there. But there is our wallet. Super cute. All right, so thanks for joining me. If you have any patterns or anything you'd like to see, comment, message me, and just let me know, and I can see if I can make it happen for you. All right, so once again, subscribe, like, let me know what you didn't like, and see you next time. Thanks. Bye.